to another tutorial by NovaPans Handpans. I understand it's been a couple of years, so for anybody who's been waiting for the next release, the next lesson, thank you for your patience. We are back and we will be planning to release these on a more regular basis. So to start off with, I think we'll be doing a recap of what we were calling the standard handpan notation, which was our means, if you haven't already checked the previous videos, it was our way of writing music for the handpan on sheet music using, the staves, the lines. We'll have a little recap of that, and then we'll cover a little melody which I've created myself, and we'll see if we can learn that. So today I'll be using a 13-note handpan in D Chord, Generation 7 by NovaPans Handpans. But if you don't have a D Chord, you don't even need a 13-note. 9 notes is fine. That's fine. You can experiment the same hand patterns on any handpan scale you like, and experiment with the sound you're creating, because that's what it's about. It's all about just creating and having fun and learning in the process. So without any further ado, let's have a quick recap over the standard handpan notation. So if you remember correctly, again for people who either have or haven't already checked the previous free series of tutorials, you have what are known in classical music education as 5 staves, the 5 staves, these 5 staves. You will normally have a clef, which just indicates how high the notes typically sound relative to the notes you write and the instruments you use. So this particular clef, you don't necessarily need to know, but we call it treble clef. It isn't necessarily applicable here because the standard handpan notation doesn't mark the notes according to their pitch. It just marks them according to what they look like visually on the handpan. So if you remember, the way we would do it is we would draw the handpan here. We would imagine, sorry, it's a little wider. We would imagine that the ding note, which is the middle note on the handpan, would be in the middle. So if you've got 5 staves, 5 lines, the ding note would be in the middle. But then I remember we rewrote that in a later tutorial to be down here, to be marked as something like this instead. So if you see either of these notes written like this, so either a note on the middle line or a note below the bottom line with a line above it, then it indicates that it's a ding note, which is the note in the middle. If I then remember correctly, we had what was the second note, which should be that one directly perpendicular with your belly, your stomach, your belly button. Dum dum. In fact, I've got the handpan here. I can show you. The ding note's here. Excuse me if this is out of tune. This is just a demo handpan we have for demonstration purposes. You've got the ding, and then you've got the second note. Okay, and this second note was just ever so simply written here. For anyone who's familiar with actual the relative pitch of the treble clef, this is just you could call this a concert D, but you don't need to know what the note is on treble clef. In the case of this, which we call simplified handpan, notation, excuse me, I don't think I've ever had a whiteboard this tall, so it's good for my stretching. In the case of this, we've got the second note there. So I could even write the little, the actual numbers of the notes. So assuming the ding note is the first note, you can call that 1. So I'm just going to write, for this sake of this video, the number 1 next to those 2 notes, and then you've got the second note 2. Now, of course, on the handpan, the scale, which is also covered in our previous tutorials, consists of going left, right, left, right, left, right with the hands from bottom to top of the notes of the handpan like this. Left, right, left, right, left, right, left, right, left. Just ignore this note here. It's actually a 10th note on this handpan. Which reminds me, this isn't a 13 note, this is a, hang on, 15 note, because we've got 5 on the bottom, 10 on the top. So again, the scale, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Most handpans have 9 notes, that's why I'm just counted to 9. 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And it's all left, right, left, right. So if the first note is your ding on your left hand note, the second note, directly perpendicular, is this one here on your right, the next one is on your left here, and I call that the third note, and I draw that again just above the second note, but I put it on the left for the sake of remembering that, you know, the visual representation of the notes. As you can probably guess, this is just a recap, so you should, if you've seen, you should be able to know this from watching the previous video, but I'm going to make this as quickly as possible. You can probably guess the fourth note is going to be this one here. So I just showed you left, right, left, right, left. I'll show you again. Left, right, left. Excuse me. Left, right, left, right. Okay? If you want to learn what particular fingers are used throughout the handpan, or variations of the scale or techniques, just go back through our previous tutorials, which are also free on YouTube, and you'll learn everything there. So that's the fourth note. Fifth note is on the left. I'm going to move a little faster now. So fifth note we put here. 5. If I remember correctly, I think we jumped again. So, I mean, we jumped a space here, you see. And I think we reserve that for percussive slaps, which are, for example, not the actual notes of the handpan, but the sounds you can make using the spaces between the notes of the handpan, like this percussive slap, or this percussive knuckle, which can also be applied all over the handpan, different sounds. And I believe that's what we reserve that space there for. So that's why we put the 6th note here. The 7th over here on the next line. Again, you can probably guess what most of these are now. The 8th up here in this space, and the 9th at the top. Of course, if you've got extra notes on your handpan, you can probably imagine sticking them on higher positions of the staves, writing your own music if you really like. It's all optional. But this is just a quick recap of simplified handpan notation, also abbreviated as SHN. Okay, and that's just for reference as I create and continue to teach new handpan songs, because what can happen is you don't necessarily need to continue rewatching the video. You can just take the sheet music, which we will also upload for free, and you can practice like that. So let's, without any further ado, since we've gone over that, if you really need to go over that any further, just watch the tutorials we mentioned. We're going to now begin this this melody I want to teach you today, which I haven't come up with a name for, but you can come up with your own kind of name if you like. But the progression goes a bit like this. So all in all, it's quite it gets increasingly more complicated, as you've noticed. But I wouldn't worry at all about that, because we start simple, and I start with the actual chord progression, which is very simply just these 4 notes being played collaboratively. I'll show you. So you've got so after you firstly, okay, so the first 4 notes here, which are played in the chord progression, are like this: 2 and 5. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 2 and 5, 2 and 5, 3 and 5. Right, and you've got 4 and 5 here. Notice how the left hand stays on the 5th note. Okay, it's playing with all of the previous notes together, but it stays there. The left hand just stays there on the 5th note here, and the right hand is actually the one that's changing. Okay, so you've got 2 and 5, 3 and 5, 4 and 5, and you actually then go back to 3 and 5 again. So it's kind of like a cycle. You go 2, 3, 4, 3, and repeat. Don't worry about playing it too fast at the beginning. In fact, you can really slow it down. If you really want to be articulate with your timing, your rhythm also for that matter, you can download a free metronome app. I believe Soundbrenner has one, which is pretty reputable, on the Play Store or Apple Store. And just get the tempo to something like the click, to something like, maybe you can try 1 beat per minute, 1 BPM. Is that right? 60 beats per minute, which is 1 beat a second. And it would be something like this. So, and then you can try to play one of those chords on each. So like this: 2 and 5, 3 and 5, 4 and 5, 3 and 5, and again 2 and 5, 3 and 5, 4 and 5, 3 and 5, and repeat. If you find that that's too fast, just slow it down. You can go down to 50 BPM, 45 BPM, or if you really struggle with the metronome, the click, because there's a lot going on, don't use the click for the beginning. Just start with playing it in your own time, which, by the way, is equally, I want to say, acceptable, but anything's acceptable really in the world of creating music. It's more expressive, isn't it, when you play to your own timing. You might like to experiment with adding some flexibility on the time there. So I actually am slowing down there on the way to the 4 and 5 there, and then I return back to the original speed for effect. You can experiment with that, the play on tempo. But for anybody who is still just learning the notes, or even the timing, just focus on making sure, firstly, you get those notes sounding correctly, properly, because it's one thing to play in time, or play a song over time, but it's another to actually create some actual beautiful sounds from the handpan. And that's what we call the touch technique, which you can learn from our, again, I keep advertising, keep reminding you of our free tutorials, but we cover that in, I think, the first or second video in the series. It's called Learning the Touch Technique, and it teaches you how to get that sound. Because pretty much most handpans have the capacity to get a really gorgeous sound, and although it is one of the easiest instruments within the family of musical instruments, there is still a learning curve, so it still requires a little bit of patience. Just as a quick reminder, it's a gentle but quick tap, which is very different to say quick but or fast but not gentle, something like, you get this muted sound. I know a lot of people are rushing to get a good sound from the handpan, so if you really can't wait to create the sound before you learn a song, that's okay. Just make sure you're not playing too hard, that you might be damaging the notes of the handpan. But you really want to sound like this. Okay, so what I'm going to do is, I'm going to write that chord progression up on the board, so that for anyone who wants the actual sheet music later will appreciate that and can take it and practice, or take a photo, keep it on their phone, practice wherever they want. So if we remember correctly, we've got the 2nd and the 5th note. And I'm going to assume, again, do not worry too much about the symbols here at the beginning, but essentially what 4/4 means is that we're counting 4 one beat notes per bar. We go into more detail on this in the previous tutorials, but essentially what this implies is that we've got 4 clicks in a bar. And a bar is just basically a section of the whole story of music we're making. And the bar is normally indicated by a line you draw, which I'll get show you. We just draw a line. I'll do that in a second because I don't know how much space I'm going to need. So I'm going to start with the notes here. So we've got 2 and 5. So 2, remember, was down here. 2 and 5 was up here. Oh, that doesn't change the pen there. So I really hope you can see this, but you've got 2 and 5 as the first chord progression. Now this, again, we do talk about how long the notes are. Please see the previous tutorials if a completely coloured in note is unfamiliar to you. It's really simple though. A coloured in note with a stem, a straight stem, just indicates that it's called a crotchet, or in North America I believe they're called, you know, I'm not going to say it because I'll probably say it wrong, but double check with someone who knows their theory in the US or Canada regarding, you know, the length of notes. But we call this you could call it a 1-beat note in this case. 2 and a 5, right, is the first note, and then we've got 3 and a 5. So 3 here, 5 is the same, and I'll draw the right left hand positions as well, just for reference. You've got 3 and a 5. Can you see those? Make these nice and big. There you go. 3 and 5. Alright, looks like the blue has already contaminated the orange, never mind. 2 and 5, 3 and 5, then you've got 4 and 5. Notice how it's the bottom notes which are getting closer to the top notes, because the 5 at the top really isn't changing. It's not changing. 5, 5, 5, 2, 3, 4. I'm going to write left hand on the top here because it's the left hand playing the 5th note, and it's the right hand playing the 2, 3, 4, and then again it goes down to 3, remember? 3. There's a 5 there. Again, same hand. Oopsie, that's a bit wonky, just ignore that. Or if we really want to be perfect, I'll try to straighten that. There you go. Left hand on the top, right hand on the bottom. And because a coloured in note with a straight stem is 1 beat, and we've got 4 of those, that completes the bar. So I'm going to write a bar line here. And that essentially is the foundation, the foundational chord sequence of that whole song. 2 and 5, 3 and 5, 4 and 5, 3 and 5. Not the correct pitch when I sing it, but that's essentially what it is. I don't think I need to write those numbers for you, do I? But I'll write them here. So each line essentially is an odd number. 3, 5. 1 is there, remember? 1 is also down there, if you imagine. 1 is there. 7, 9. So if you're unsure of which notes are which, just remember that the line notes are always odd notes, which again on the handpan, on the left hand, they're on the left hand. All the odd notes of the handpan are on the left hand side of the handpan. I'll quickly show you that. You've got 1 right in the middle. You've got 2, which is kind of here, which is directly perpendicular. But then you've got 3. You've also got 5, 7, 9, and they're pretty much on the left here. So that's one way to remember where the notes are. Likewise on the right, you've got 2, 4, 6, 8, and those are in the spaces between those lines. So these are just little tips to remember. So this is the chord sequence. I'll play that one more time. Up and down here. So that's what playing music's all about. Exercising, practicing. Okay. I like to count in 3, 4, 2 and 5, 3 and 5, 4 and 5. slow it down. Remember, the left hand is staying on the top, staying on those fifth notes. 5 being the second line, right? That's what I mean by the fifth note. It's not changing. The right hand is changing. It's going 2, and then again 3. Left hand is still there. 4. Left hand is still there. The right hand's going. It's kind of like this crisscross. You've got to jump over there, and then it's going back to 3. Okay, again it's 2 and 5, 3 and 5, 4 and 5, 3 and 5, and then you start again. 2 and 5. Okay, so the fact that we loop, I think is something that should be notated in this song, and the way we do that, the way we indicate a repeat in sheet music is we draw these repeat marks, and it's basically a double line with these 2 dots, colons, whatever you want to call them. That just means you loop, you go back. It doesn't necessarily mean you loop every time, but in this case, for the sake of simplicity, I'm going to say that this implies that you just repeat infinitely. So it's up to you. What you do after this, in terms of how you decorate or ornament your music, is really up to you. Some suggestions which I explored in that original demo involve, if I can remember, let's see, let's go over it again. Yeah. I like to do that. So we're going to start simple, but we are going to get to this, at least in this video. It's kind of a dotted rhythm. You see the left hand is doing this kind of syncopated, which is like an offbeat rhythm. It's like a jumpy left hand. We'll get to that, but just before I get to that, for the advanced users, and for anyone who wants to advance from just a basic chord sequence, I'm going to show you that you can actually add this 9th note to really create something angelic. Notice how this 9th note is between the chords, and it's exactly between the chords, except for that one I just played too quickly. I mean, if you can just learn this, you've already got a lovely melody. And what you can actually do is change it from the 9th note. Let's play it slowly, I'm sorry. You can change it to, say, the 8th note, which, remember, even notes are on the right. Even 7 over there. 8 again. You can even create a little melody of your own, where you alternate between what you play. So in fact, that's a nice little melody at the top there. I think I might write that down. It's basically what we've got already, which is 2 and 5, 9, 3 and 5, 8, excuse me, 4 and 5, 7, and then back again, remember, 3 and 5, 8, and then you repeat. Let me play that one more time. 2 and 5, 9, 3 and 5, 8, 4 and 5, 7, 3 and 5, 8, repeat. That's a lovely little melody, especially for a recap. And you know what? I'll use a different colour, and I'll put that in red. So what did I say? We were playing 9 between these notes. 2 and 5, 9, 3 and 5, 8. Yeah. 4 and 5, 7, and then 3 and 5, 8. Okay, that's what those red notes are. Those are the those little melodic notes you play on the top. You might be wondering what fingers to use, what hand to use. For me personally, I use the right hand, since the right hand is the one that's moving already. So I would put an R there to indicate you use your right hand for those notes. And for anyone who's questioning, the actual length of the notes and how these are even possible to be written in between here, considering they're also filled in and they don't have a neck or a tail. I'm going to actually do it properly, and I'm going to connect them. So basically, by connecting them like this to the previous chord, I'm actually giving them proper rhythm timing. So I really hope you can see that. I know it's small, it's zoomed in, but again, we're going to have this on sheet music uploaded. You can download for free. These are known in England at least as quavers, which are also half-beat rhythms. So if you remember that click we were talking about, 1, 2, 3, 4. These chords would be played on the beat. Dum, 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 repeat. Dum, 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 and then these notes are being played in between. Dum, 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 dum. Okay. So if you are playing with a metronome, that's how you should do it. You should play these chords on the beat. Dum, 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 and then those high notes between. Dum, dum, and again. Okay, and so that essentially is that little song played for you and written using simplified handpan notation. I did say that I was going to teach those who wanted to advance even further to play something like this, and I am going to try to stick it in this video despite the fact we're running low on. Okay, I think we can do it. Excuse me. I'm going to teach those who want to advance even further to this kind of left-hand dotted rhythm, which is also very impressive, but also this what we've already done is super impressive by itself. No one is assessing you based on your rhythmic virtuosity or like how fast you can play, how complicated you can play. The handpan is a magical healing instrument, and as long as you can convey a feeling, an expression, you can play the handpan. So don't worry about trying to be, a master at any particular, a master at it. But for those that do want to explore more complicated rhythms, this is for you. So we've already got, and then we've got, right, and then what I'm going to teach you now is. Essentially what it is, it's the same chord progression, but it's dotted, which basically means you've got the chords being played, but with a bit more rhythm. So yeah. Well, it sounds dotted because the left hand there is coming on, say, you could say, the third quarter of the beat each time. If you imagine you're breaking, if you really want to get into the rhythms here, the timing, you imagine each beat can be broken into, so for example, this is 1 beat, 2, 3, 4, these are half beats, and these are quarter beats. or semiquavers. And what's happening is I'm now playing some of the chords as semiquavers. I'm trying to remember. Well, yeah. Because I've only given them one beat notes, so I don't really want to use eighth notes. Two clicks each time. Yeah, I didn't really want to use eighths, so what I might do in this case is rewrite it slightly. So we're going to imagine that. Well, I'm actually going to raise this, rub it out, rewrite it. This time we're going to imagine the chords are actually minims, or each chord is 2 beats long, so that these dotted rhythms I'm talking about are actually going to be semiquavers. As opposed to the semiquaver is like a quarter note, as opposed to demi-semiquavers, which are eighth notes. So again, we've got the 5 staves, 2, 3, 4, 5. You got the treble clef. You got the time signature, and then you've got the chords, which are 2 and 5. Remember, I'm going to draw them like this now. 2 and 5 is up here. 2 and 5. If it's a non-coloured in note with a straight stem or neck or tail like that, it counts for 2. It stands for 2 beats. That's how long it stands for. So we've got 2 and 5. Then we've got 3 and 5. And then you've got the new bar line. It's going to be something like. I should really give some more space to that, to be honest. Excuse me. Because we're going to add some notes here, you see. 2 and 5, 3 and 5. New bar line here. And then you've got 4 and 5. Which were, excuse me, this should be here. Right, ignore that. 2 and 5. Then you've got 4 and 5. And then you go again back down to 3 and 5, which is here. 3 and 5. The second line's got a little wonky there, but that's okay. And essentially at this point, then you repeat. Right. When you do repeat, I mean, this is something I'll say later, but you can, excuse me, you can really improvise. You can make up the notes you play above the chords. That is, I mean, if you really want to experiment with different chords too, you can. So if I remember, we've got 2 and 5, dum, 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 da da dum, dum, da 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 da. Yeah. Well, let's just keep the orange the whole time, because it is a chord which is being played with here. So what's happening now is you've got 2 and 5, dum, da da da. We're going 2 5 2. Dun, 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 dun. Yeah, it's not played together, is it? 2 5 2 5 2, and those are actually semiquavers, which I'll demonstrate the way you write now. So let me just write it first. Dum, dum, da da da. So I've written it as a chord again, ignore that. 2, 5. Might be a little confusing the way I've written this, but you'll see. So let me rub that out and redo it a little cleaner. This stem is shared, and that's an extra line there to indicate that these are actually not just half notes. The first one's a half note. The second two are 2 quarter notes. So that's played something like with a time, a click like this. 2, 3, 4. This would be played 1, 3, 4. Dun, 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 dun. You see that? So that's what's going on. 2, 5 together, then 2, 5 right after one another, and then a 1 beat note for 2. And the same rhythm actually, by the way, these are all connected, don't be confused. Right, imagine these are connected. The same rhythm is played for this. So if you can actually play it for the first chord, you can do the same for the second chord. So let me demonstrate. The first time it's played together, 2, 5. And then you've got them played separately, 2, 5, 2. That's basically the rhythm. 2, 5, da 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 da, right? Da 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 da. And you go up here after that. Da 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 da, da 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 da, da 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 da, da 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 da. That's that rhythm. It's not really a dotted rhythm unless you ghost the second time you play that first note. So ghosting is something we covered in a previous tutorial, and it's basically a way that you play the note, but you play it ever so gently that you almost don't play it. In fact, if you don't play it, it's better than actually playing it. That's what ghosting is. So it's something like this. The second note I'm playing is almost non-audible, you can't hear it. And what I'm also doing to accent the fact that there's almost no second note there, I'm actually accenting the left hand 5. So by accents, also covered in our previous tutorials, you're actually playing that particular note with a little bit more strength, you could say, a little bit more, well yeah, it's more accented, but potent, it stands out more. So by doing that, you make that rhythm, which is otherwise a semi-quaver quarter beat rhythm, sound as a dotted rhythm, something like this. And if you play it, in my case, if I play it, I can really convey that feeling when I play it faster like this. Notice how actually, after I land on here, we have space between here and the next note, and sometimes I will just alternate between the first 2 notes again, like a semi-quaver, 4 semi-quavers. I will go dum dum da 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 dum da 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 dum da 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 dum da 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 da. So what I just mentioned there was ghosting, accenting, and also adding semiquavers in the second beat of each chord there. And I'll quickly, well not quickly, I'll carefully make a note of that. So brackets around the note are suggestive that it can be ghosted, which essentially means you don't necessarily have to play the standard way. You can actually gently touch it, or not touch it at all, but still play as if you're going to play that note, but just don't necessarily sound it. Check out our previous tutorials on ghost notes if you want to double check that. So I'll put a bracket around that to indicate that that second note is potentially a ghost note option. And if you want, you can also accent that third note. Now I hope I can remember correctly, I think that's the way the accents go. I hope that's correct. It's either that way or the other way, of course. I think it is that way. That means it's accented. And if you really want to, you can add here, although I'll probably write it here so that you have one variation here and then you have another one here. So one variation is that, where you land on that second note. By the way, that's the first beat, second beat, third beat, fourth beat will be here. Again, first, second, third, fourth. So one variation of the chord, the advanced chord sequence here is that on the second beat, you just play it as a whole, as a single crotchet, a single beat. You don't play anything in between. The alternative is, as I'll demonstrate with this second chord, is, here we go, let me just draw these firstly. Semiquavers done. Is you just play them as semiquavers, so you continue to play them. I have to squeeze them in there as 4 new semiquavers. When I say semiquavers, again, it means quarter beat notes. Forgive me if they're having wonky stems there, but essentially you've got dum 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 dum. Sorry. Dum 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 dum. I should have clicked there. So again, what that means is, I'll show you that again. Dum 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 dum. So again, 1 and a 2, 3 and a 4E and a 1, 2, 3, 4. We call that 4E and a, because with the half beats, we just say and, you know, 1 and 2 and 3 and. But if you've got quarter beat notes, what do you say? You say 4E and E, essentially. You might write that as in that notation like that. So not to confuse you or overcomplicate it, a lot of you will be able to learn this just by ear, but again, some people learn visually, and some people even learn more intricately, using even more detail in the visual representation. So that's what the point of this is for. So if you don't understand this, don't worry. But again, we cover most of the theory here in previous tutorials. So if you've got any questions on that, please let us know. Microphones ran out, so I need to get more batteries. So hopefully this sound suffices. And that's a recap. It's May 2024. I think our last video was 2 years ago. And again, thank you for your patience, and we really hope that these videos help you. If you've got any inquiries whatsoever, any particular video requests, handpan purchasing requests, because we sell handpans, or anything related vaguely to handpans, please let us know, and we'll be more than happy to help you, and for free. We'll upload these videos for free. So thank you, and see you at the next one. Bye bye.